What's up guys, my name is Ace Cosplay and today I'm taking you through shooting miniatures for beginners because I'm a beginner and I decided to try and do miniature shots for my Death Trooper reveal video. So the ones that I'm going to cover today are going to be shooting miniature ships on a green screen background and making and shooting a miniature set. Again, quite simple, it sounds like it's going to be a lot, but honestly, once you get into it, it's really easy and it's really quite fun. So for my first shot, I had a mini Star Destroyer model in front of a green screen so I could make it look like it's in deep space. And you can probably find videos or images online of a good starscape to use, but I decided I want to make mine, and if you want certain details in the background, this is probably an easy way to sort of do it, or if you can't find any images that you quite like. This is how I made my starscape. I just got a piece of black A3 card like this, and using a pin just poked a load of tiny little holes in it. So when you're done, you got something a little bit like this. You can just about see the light coming through there. So to shoot this, what I did was I actually attached this to a couple of brooms and set it up in a corner of a room which had white walls. I actually used a shower for this because it had white tiles, so it reflects the light really well. And I just held a torch behind it, so when the card is full frame like this, you can see the light coming through and the camera catches it. Also, there's a little lens flare on one side of my shot, which I just did by holding the torchlight, so a little bit was poking out the side of the card and actually being directly caught by the camera, but it was still able to light this because I wanted to give an effect of there might be a planet or a sun just off at the side, and then it gives a definite light source to help light my Star Destroyer. So obviously if you're filming with models, you can use pretty much anything you want. You don't have to use spaceships, you can use anything, but obviously for mine, I decided to use a tiny little model Star Destroyer like this. This is actually a Rebel, I think is how it's pronounced, kit, just a little snap together plastic one. It came as like a really pale grey, so I decided to give it a wash over with some acrylic paint and actually use a Sharpie to get like all these little sort of square highlights on there. And because the Sharpie is a metallic silver, when the light catches it, some of the stuff on the other side catches the light. It sort of makes it look like there's lights on inside the ship, because in the film they had a 4-foot model Star Destroyer and had LEDs in it, so it kind of makes it look like there's still some life going on in there. So to actually shoot this, I set it up on a green screen. This is my green screen. It's just a load of green fabric that I found at a local fabric store. You don't need anything fancy for this. Bright green like this, bright blue like a sort of deep kind of electric blue colour, or bright hot pink is normally the best things to use for stuff like this. So if you can't find green, then see blue or pink, and vice versa, because a lot of edit software has specific like keys, they're called, to key out backgrounds, and they work best with those three colours. So I used the same space just to set up my green screen on the wall. I just used tape to hold it in place, and you want your green screen to be really well lit, so I had the lights on in that area, and I also lit it underneath using a big lamp that I had in the shed. So for the Star Destroyer, I had it propped up on another little broom, and I had it far sort of distance away from the green screen that the lighting from the bottom of the green screen wouldn't affect the Star Destroyer too much. And I had to sort of play about with the settings on my camera to see what would pick up the green screen at the back really well and sort of film it with the sort of good sort of dark contrast. So I've used the night setting on my camera. If you don't have any settings on your camera, then you can always fiddle about with it in editing later. So now I've got my model set up, I need to light it separately because, as I said, I had that lens flare coming on the background shot, so I wanted to light the Star Destroyer primarily on one side. So to stop the lighting from above with just the room lights being on affecting it, I held a piece of cutting board over the top, but you can just use card, anything that's solid that just stops the light going over it to cast a bit of a shadow, and held a torch with a little bit of tint on it just on one side, and then sort of held it where I wanted it and then filmed a little bit of that footage. If you wanted to make it look like your ship is moving through space, then you can move the lighting around it, or you can just move it later in the edit software, or you can just grab your Star Destroyer or your ship, whatever you've got, and move it by hand in front of the camera. If you're going to do that, you want to connect something somewhere where the camera's not going to really see it, because otherwise if you turn it, then when you use a green screen key, you're going to end up with a big hole because it keys out the green or the blue or whatever, and then you're just left with a big gap in your ship and it's not going to look very good. and you want to try and use the same colour that you've used for the background and don't have anything shiny, because if you still want to try and light this separately, it's going to be a little bit harder to key it out, it won't be so bright. If you use something shiny, it's going to pick up the light and it's going to make little white spots, and it's just going to take a long time to cut all that out in every single frame if you're moving it. Once I filmed what I wanted to film, I had to then put it in editing. So first thing I did was I put the background in and played with the contrast just a little bit and added a little bit extra to the lens flare as well, and then over the top of that I put the Star Destroyer footage that I shot, and I used a garbage mat to crop around the ship a little bit and crop out the bottom where you can see it's being held on, and then use the green screen key to take away the background. And there you have it, you have your ship in space. So my second shot that I did for my reveal video was actually a miniature of a hallway in a Star Destroyer. It's got some details from the Death Star in there because I wanted certain sort of lighting effects, but I thought it'd be quite interesting to try and make a little set for it. This is the set. It's gone a bit mush now, it's warped in the heat of this room, but I built it entirely out of cardboard and used a little bit of tracing paper so I could light these bits back here separately using LED tap lights, and it actually works quite well. So I had the camera down on my desk where I knew I wanted to film sort of the angle, and then I built around that, so I was constantly looking at how the camera would see it as opposed to how I could see it, to try and give the idea of like a forced perspective, that it is a longer corridor than it is, and just building it up on that. So to make my little lighting panels, again I just used cardboard, cut it out and put some tracing paper on the back so I could light it and make sure it all looked really eerie and spooky in the final shot, because darkness does hide a lot of your mistakes. It's the great thing about shooting something like that. The dark hides a lot of your mistakes and a lot of your bad set building. If you're got more time and more sort of materials than I did, then you can probably make this look really, really good, but remember, still a beginner. Everything got a quick spray with spray paint, and the floor of the actual set got sprayed with some clear lacquer as well, so any light that comes through, you can see it reflects it that bit more, so it kind of adds to the feeling that this would be the polished Star Destroyer. So this is how it looks with no specific lighting. This is just the angle that it would be filmed at. So again, to get the lighting I wanted, I shot the set in complete darkness and had those tap lights lighting up the little sort of light boxes going down the hallway, as well as the use of a smoke machine, and I couldn't quite get the smoke machine to reach the set, so I just used a plastic bottle to sort of get some smoke and then slowly sort of puff it out in front of the camera, so that sort of gets picked up by the lights as well. Final shot, there is also blaster bolts going on. So in the back of my set I actually had a little hole cut out where I could shine a torch down with a little bit of red tint and just click it on and off to make it look like there's a blaster firing down there. It's very simple to do, but in the end it does look quite effective. Yeah, the only thing you really need to do with that in editing is just fix any lighting you don't like and any colours, anything like that. But for the most part, it's all done in camera, so if you take the time just to build everything, set it up and just get it how you want it, it's actually really easy and really, really fun to do. So this was just a quick one just to show you guys how I did it, and it might help anybody who's looking to start to get into doing things like this for model making for green screen and set building and stuff, because it's not a lot on YouTube that kind of really helps out that I found, so I thought I might as well do it myself. So anyway guys, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and as always, may the Force be with you.